Well, Kurt, as mentioned earlier, you got to fly this Sukhoi with Brandon's setup, and you know, all fairness,
I don't think I'll be beside him in the field, you know, anytime soon.
Yeah. So you know, Kurt's review is, you know, does not reflect the amount of white knuckle flying that went on this afternoon.
You know, it's a combination. It was tough when we went through and did the. To me, having Brandon's feedback was extremely valuable because I was able to weigh that across the pro's perspective, and then for me also the average hobbyist perspective of going out and experiencing the plane. So it definitely affected the scoring.
Well, let's find out what that scoring is.
Have at it.
Start with model characteristics. Build as advertised. Kurt, you gave it a 5 out of 5. You did all the build on this for the most part.
I did the full assembly on this thing, and it really went together well. The laser cut parts are gorgeous inside of the plane. SebArt definitely makes what I'd say a high quality, a high finish quality model. So it would, by any standard, be of the best that you're going to get your hands on out there. So when you saw the fit and finish, there was no adjustments necessary. The kit itself is a really straightforward assembly. I mean, they do a lot of the work for you. It's kind of what we typically see in an ARF. You get used to. The fuselage proper is assembled, covered, ready to go. They already pre-drilled the hinges. The hinges just need to be epoxied in place. There's a lot of screw assembly, so there isn't a whole lot of epoxying and stuff. It's a very different construction, more of what you'd expect at this level or at this size. And then you just have some linkage. Probably the most complex thing for a newer flyer to go through if you've never done a pull-pull system is you've got to take some time, put the pull-pull wiring in and get it set up. I actually used, with Hitec, you know, trying to take what they had put in the manual, SebArt put in the manual for recommended servo setups. They actually spec'd out, I think, some JR servos. So I did some cross-reference and found some Hitec horns that would give us the same throw, high torque horns, and was able to make that setup very easily. So in fact, Hitec has, we'll make sure we post on the review page, all of the products we used in it, and they have a real high torque horn set that works great. You pick them up and it'll fit all the servos and you're ready to go. So
great.
But yeah, it went together very, very smooth. I chose to go over the top with some of the electronics, so I was on my own there. But
you over the top?
Imagine that.
We'll go. That brings us to finish.
That brings us
How
to
I have no idea, but finish 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's a beautifully covered plane.
It speaks for itself.
I don't know if the camera's picking it up or not now. We've taken this in and out of the heat. We've flown it. It's been exposed to a little bit of moisture down in South Carolina.
9 hours south and back. And
so you know, we could use an iron on it again. When it came out of the box, it was gorgeous and it's very well covered, and just the trim scheme itself is beautiful.
It's a nice plane. It looks, it's one of those planes when you pull it out of the box, you just can tell that you've got a quality product, and it shows.
Beautiful,
really
finish.
does. Power 4 out of 5.
Okay, let's talk about that briefly. We're using a 10S setup, which is 37 volts. We're using the A60 22S motor. As we propped it for the recommended 20.5 by 12 prop from APC. A lot more thrust with it. When we went down to a 20 by 10, we found ourselves we could lift off of a hover and actually pull out, but it wasn't doing it at any rapid pace at all. So
it wasn't doing it. You kind of reiterate a little bit on that. It wasn't doing it at the pace that a pro pilot would like.
Absolutely not. Yeah, you're not going to flip it through the maneuvers you're going to want to with that kind of thrust. With that said, though, for someone just getting into it, it was very comfortable, and it also gave you extended run times because you weren't taxing the power plant as much. In fact, I think our average draw on the power plant was about 65 amps, and that's going through maneuvers, which is way below. This thing's rated with a much higher power plant.
Now things got warm at that.
It warmed up the battery and the motor got nice and warm, but it by no means was pushing the limits. So we could prop it into the 20.5 by 12 and get a lot more out of it. In fact, 20.5 by 12 carbon fiber prop would probably be about the ideal setup for this particular platform. So power was good, and it was possible to be slightly retooled without forklifting and go into a high power output. In fact, I'd probably go to a 12S because the motor can handle it. Go to a 12S and maybe jump up to that 20.5 by 12 or 20 by 12 carbon fiber prop. And you really see the thing come to life on you. So
well, like we said before, it's a good platform to build from, and you don't have to change all the big parts to be able to build up from that. All right, that leads us to ground handling, 5 out of 5.
You know, if you ever take some time on a simulator and you go into a symmetrical wing, unified thrust line, 3D aerobatic plane, they're so graceful when they come into the ground. I mean, you can just chop the throttle on them, bring them in, get into a nice gentle glide slope, and they just touch down. So they're very forgiving. Like if you go to a larger scale warbird or something like that, you're gonna have all of those tendencies of a low wing and things to kind of wake you up or keep you focused.
Yeah.
With these, all the chaos takes place in the air. When it's takeoff or landing, it's a comfortable 4-channel flying beginner pilot, if they could get it out of their head that they're flying a big plane, could land and take these things off no problem. So very great, very nice ground handling.
All right, durability, 4 out of 5. Now durability with this, anytime you watch a 3D plane of any size, any infraction usually results in many pieces.
Any small incident.
These things are built very, I guess the best way to describe it would be almost like a lacy type airframe.
Yeah.
Just picking this plane up, you've got to be careful where you place your fingers just because of the weight of the plane.
Yeah.
You could easily break some of the
your ribbing in there.
Your ribbing, stick your finger through the covering, anything on the bottom. But that's the way they need to be designed.
Absolutely, they're meant to be light and rigid, so they're going to have a strong element of non-durability to them.
Exactly. So you look at a plane this size and you think, boy, that thing's built tough. It really isn't. They're really not built tough.
They're tough when they land in the landing gear like they're supposed to, and they handle that extremely well, but any other impacts are just not designed for it all. So.
Now, like we said, this thing has traveled a lot. It's been in my van a few times. It went to Toledo and back. It's been to Columbus and back. It's been to Joe Knoll
South Carolina and back. Yeah.
So it had to been transported. It has had to been transported many times. And with that said, we haven't done any damage to it at all.
Not at all.
Now we've been extremely careful, but it's taken a few bumps and bangs. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. So durability, if you're careful, I think
I'd say it's on par for the class.
Sure, it is. So. Yep. All right. This leads to pilot experience, Kurt. Yeah. Flight is advertised 5 out of 5. Obviously, it did what it's supposed to do.
It did. You know, after Brandon got finished flying it, he made the comment. And you'll see in the video, it's very axial.
Yeah.
And that was a great way to describe the characteristics of this airframe. Yeah. When you fly it, it feels like there's this ball of weight right in the center, right at the CG, the lateral and the longitudinal CG, right in the center of the plane. And when you throw the control surfaces around, it rotates about that center axis. So it's a very, very axial plane. For people who are just getting used to, larger or more aggressive 3D aerobatics, it's extremely responsive. If you're into competition, if you want to go into competition and that's the direction you're going, you're going to love the characteristics of the airframe.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I noticed when it took off. It took off very gentle and very easy, and it was very cooperative. As soon as you pull it up, you can snap it into a hover in a heartbeat. I mean, you can flip it over and go inverted and do a quick snap roll and back into level flight very quickly and easily. Yep. Even with the servos and the setup that we have, it really responded well. So
it did.
Overall, it truly meets the definition of this size and type and design of aircraft. I mean, a Sukhoi and a Yak and those types of aerobatic planes come with a certain expectation, and they've led the competitions for years and years in the full-scale side for that very reason. Yeah. They're an extremely nimble, very aerobatic airframe, and the Sukhoi, the 29S, completely fills that bill. So it's been very well received.
Flight time, 4.5 out of 5. Now, I noticed that night at Joe Knoll when Brandon was flying it, he rang that thing out pretty much at full throttle almost the entire time, and I was surprised at how long he flew it for. I really didn't think it was going to make it that far, and he never had an issue with timing out the battery.
Not by any means. I mean, we were logging solid 8-minute flights off of this today in the different prop testing that we were doing. And I know Brandon was getting every bit of that down in Joe Knoll. So it's a good combination. The 10S with the A60 22S power plant. And of course, it was propped down slightly too when he was doing his aerobatics. But it makes, again, our whole target when we spoke to SebArt and we wanted to do one of their planes, it was about finding that sweet spot for the hobbyist.
Yes.
What's the practical largest size you're going to want to go with electric before you're just like, no, this is a 30cc plus plane. Don't mess around with it. Don't play around with electric. This is very practical size.
It is.
It's a very practical size. So flight times need to be there. They need to be good. You can't be up for 5 minutes and back down. You'll have a full routine in this, no problem. Yeah. And you'll land with a little bit of battery
left. If you aren't completely worn out physically and your nerves aren't completely racked after 8 minutes.
You ever notice they're calm?
Not that they are calm.
Yeah, that's what I said. They're calm.
I'm saying for the average hobbyist, 8 minutes is an eternity on something like this.
Yep, the lower you get, the longer that time stretches out.
Exactly.
Yep.
Field size, it doesn't even need mention. This needs to be a flying field without a doubt. Portability, 4.5 out of 5. Like we said, we've moved this thing a million times.
Yeah, you know, the thing I like about it is you've got 2 canopy hatches, or 2 canopy screws, which are just, you know, socket head cap screws. And then you have 2 socket head cap screws going into the 2 wing mounts. And we've assembled this thing so many times, it's very quick. It's very painless. If you got
the nice thing is you got 2 plugs, or 1 plug on each side for the ailerons, and you're done.
Yep.
You don't have a mess of wires that you've got to try to feed through holes
No,
and
it's
line
not bad.
up.
Spar pulls right out, and you're laying it down and slipping the wings up.
It is a large plane, there's no doubt, but it'll fit in the average.
But as far as large planes
SUV, van.
As far as large planes go, the disassembly is really easy.
Yeah, it is.
You can slip it in.
Last but not least, skill level.
This is an advanced plane.
Definitely.
I wouldn't even consider this if you were at the intermediate level.
No.
You know, play around with a smaller, you know, 40 some inch wingspan 3D aerobatic plane, and get used to it.
You got to work up to something like this.
Yep. Now you could buddy box this with somebody that really knows how to fly,
and
it would allow it to bring down to that intermediate level, and you could certainly transition to this platform. But to take this out of the box, as they say, build it up and take it out and fly it, you're really running a risk unless you have some good, strong intermediate skills and you're moving into that advanced level. So the thing you'll notice is with it being so axial, I hate to keep using the word over and over again, you can put yourself in a stall condition very quickly.
Yeah.
You completely dissipate any and all forward speed, and you find yourself, you're either hanging on a prop or you're torque rolling on the ground. So you've got to be comfortable doing just that. Thrust vectoring with a plane well underneath the minimum forward airspeed, and knowing that you're relying on that power plant to keep you off the ground and out of the dirt. And that's definitely an advanced skill.
Exactly. If you're going to jump into a plane this size and with the capabilities that this plane has, you don't want to second guess any of your stick movements at all.
No, you want full orientation.
You got it.
Yeah, and as guys say, a lot of the pros will go back to the simulator if they're, you know, they use that for orientation, for control orientation.
And a lot of them say for rudder. Or rudder seems to be
specifically what I recall too is that you want to know with a 3D aerobat plane, the rudder has to be second nature. You have to know exactly where you need that rudder.
And usually by nature on any plane, rudder is usually the Achilles heel for most people because they just don't think about it.
Fly with the ailerons.
Yeah, that's right.
It's ugly. You get a lot of slip, but I can do some really cool maneuvers with just those ailerons.
I'm sure you can.
You know, it's like anything else. You get it up 3 mistakes high and you yank those sticks all over the place.
It looks awesome.
This will curl itself up into a ball.
It will. Yeah. And it looks like you're supposed to be doing that.
Kinda.
Yeah.
But anybody that knows how to fly these knows it's just a bunch of BS.
And if you kill the throttle, it'll kind of start to right itself and you can recover. Yeah.
Well, go to the website at tobefly.com and take a look at the full review. For our mobile users, you can go to rcflightsource.com, download the mobile app, and you can take all this content on the go, including our parts locator and field locator. I'm Kurt with Two Brothers Hobby.
And I'm Rob. Thanks for watching. Well, Brandon, you had a chance to fly the SebArt Sukhoi for us today, and of course you flew it with what I would call a stock setup. Of course, this setup is geared more towards price point than anything. You're looking at about $1,800 to get into the rig as is. Obviously geared more for, I would say, the hobbyist. You know, at that level, with you flying it at that, kind of give us some ideas of how you thought the plane felt with that setup.
Oh, it felt great. I mean, you know, as an entry-level setup, I mean, I would love to have had that back when I was, you know, flying and beginning 3D and, you know, cruising around and, you know, learning rollers and all those types of things. You know, even up to intermediate would enjoy this kind of setup.
Okay. Now, if someone wanted to take it to the next step, say someone get into some competition, what would be some of your recommendations with this platform? How far could you go with this platform?
The platform, I mean, it's not limited. The airframe, you have big surfaces, you know, light airframe, flies nicely, rolls very axially, very competitive. So I don't think you're limited at all. If you you know, put some really strong servos on there, you know, get rid of any kind of blowback and high G maneuvers. Okay. You're right up there with anything.
All right, what servos would you be looking at if you were to change these out for yourself?
I do some of the 7985s, the digital 7985s, and run them through there. That's what I have on a comparable size airframe.
Yeah.
And it just whips it around.
Yeah. I know when you were flying it earlier, there was some talk that you would like to add a little more thrust.
Yeah.
Versus what setup we had?
Yeah,
What would be your recommendation?
I'm not sure exactly the prop you have on it, and this size is a little bit bigger. I know that you guys were pulling a little bit. I mean, it wasn't really working the motor as much as it might, could handle. So propping it maybe a little bit bigger would give you, 10% more would make most people happy.
Okay.
Than what you have right there. 30% more is going to make like the guys out here doing the one tricks and doing that thing really happy. So, that's just where you're looking at. I mean, the way you have it right now, if you're just kind of a sport flyer, fly around, do loops, rolls, something like that, you're going to be happy with it as is.
Okay.
If you wanted to speed up a little bit, be able to do a little bit more stuff, I would first increase, your prop side, do something with that motor setup to get a little bit more power out of it. And then the next level, I would, because once you start throwing it through the air faster and more aggressively, these servos, the thrust on them, there's too much push on the surfaces. So, you don't have that full control.
So as your skills increase, it could easily adapt this split.
Yes, I mean, and as you're learning, these servos aren't very fast. So I mean, not necessarily response time, but it's a little bit more sluggish, which is probably a little bit better for. And you're really, it's not horrible at all. Sure. But if you wanted high performance to where you move that stick and it just boom like that, you definitely want to up the servos a little bit there. But like you said, the servo horns all fit, the surface is all the same. All you do is pop the servos out and put some new ones in it, and then go throw those in something else.
All right. Well, hey, Brandon, we appreciate your time.
No problem.
Yeah, straight in.
All right, landing. Landing!
Story of the weekend. Better than that.